וגם אני פתאום רואה את הקולות.
And welcome back to another episode of Kolot. This is your host, Rabbi Hillel Kappenstein, director of the Columbus Community Kollel, and it's a great honor and privilege to welcome all of you back to an episode featuring Rabbi Yitzchok Feldheim. Rabbi Feldheim and I got to meet each other at the Torah Masorah conference just a few months ago, and had a great time getting to know him and schmoozing with him and learning a little bit about what he does and how he inspires everyone of all walks of life, basically in every area, not just in this country, but countries around the world. So I think you're going to very, very much enjoy this episode. It's going to be fun, exciting, and I think you might even have a hard time turning it off. To sponsor a episode, please email me, sponsorkolot@gmail.com. Once again, if you would like to sponsor an episode, sponsorkolot@gmail.com. But without any further ado, allow me to tell you about our guest. Rabbi Yitzchok Feldheim grew up in Washington Heights and attended Yeshiva Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch and the Masifta of Long Beach. He spent 4 years studying in Monsey and Israel under Rabbi Shmuel Feivelson, Rabbi Zevulun Schwartzman, and the Mir, followed by 7 years at Beth Medrash Gavoa in Lakewood. In 1991, Rabbi Feldheim traveled to Vilna, Lithuania to open the first yeshiva there since before the war. He was the rabbi of Yardley, Pennsylvania for 15 years, during which he built a community of Baalei Teshuvah and founded Bucks County Community Kollel and the Bucks County Yeshiva High School. While in Yardley, he became involved in College Kiruv, establishing outreach programs at Rutgers University and Penn State. As an expert in Jewish thought and philosophy and an engaging speaker, Rabbi Feldheim has become one of the most sought-after lecturers in college outreach. Over the last 10 years, as national lecturer for Esha Torah, for Gateways, Project Inspire, and his own organization, Rabbi Feldheim has lectured for communities and campuses across the U.S. and around the world. He has spoken on almost every campus with a significant Jewish presence, from Austin to Berkeley to Wharton and Yale. Internationally, he has lectured in India, South Africa, Central and South America, and throughout Europe. And a lot more to read on the bio, which maybe we'll save for another time. But Rabbi Feldheim, thank you so much for joining Kolot.
Oh, Rabbi, that was amazing.
You know, I saw in your, I read in your bio about how much you've done on college campus. I know that you said most recently it's taken a little bit of a shift, but let's dive into that chapter of your life. So you traveled, to basically every campus with a significant Jewish presence. And why? Like, why did they bring you in? What did you discuss? What did you share in common?
So I'll tell you, today, there's a lot of interest in outreach. So basically every campus with a significant Jewish presence has really a rabbi or at least one rabbi on campus full time. So they're all over the US, people living in middle of nowhere, raising their kids. But the problem is that the campuses they're so left wing that the rabbis are very limited in what they could talk about. You can't move somewhere and be fully invested and buy a house and an outreach center and get thrown out in 3 weeks. Right. So, and they will be. I mean, there is, religion altogether is not like exactly welcome, let alone an Orthodox branch of religion, Mm-hmm. So they're limited in what they could talk about. They could have Shabbos guests, they could be warm, they could be there, be like sort of therapists for the kids and counselors, and they can talk about Lashon Hara and social justice and chesed and but
Tikkun Olam.
Yeah, Tikkun Olam. But no, the truth is, and they talk about Shabbos. They talk about a lot of things, but you're not getting any kids to really take you seriously unless you deal with the elephants in the room. Mm-hmm. And now the elephants in the room evolved, but when I started doing it, it was every conversation was feminism, and atheism, evolution. Today it's gender roles or genders that all together, and there's homosexuality. These are all huge issues, and the rabbis cannot go there. Mm-hmm. You can't talk about it. You'll be thrown off campus no matter what you say. So So what do? You're not going to get anybody to take you seriously unless you deal with the big issues. Otherwise, you're just basically a vending machine, giving them food and shop. So what they do is they bring in outside speakers. That was my job. They would bring me in, and I would do the tough stuff and talk to the kids. And if it didn't go over well, then they would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we'll never bring him back." I was like a buffer zone, and I can't say it always went well. It just takes one student to make a scene.
Right.
I started an Arab riot once in Rutgers University.
Tell me about that one.
I don't know.
Off record, we should talk more.
I can tell you, but it's more cute than edifying. But
okay, we take cute things here.
Okay, so I'll tell you. So I mean, I think we were talking then about, it wasn't even a real issue. It was a total misunderstanding. We were talking about men and women's roles, and I was responding to a claim that somebody said that our tznius roles are like Taliban light. Like so you have a lower standard, but you're still basically telling women how to dress, and you're telling people to cover up. How are you different than Taliban? The Taliban's like the worst word in those days. You could probably, before Islam was rehabilitated. Those days it was like, that was like So basically my response was that I hear your point that we both tell people to cover up, fine, fair. Right. It's a fair point, but you can't judge what something's about by the external representation of it. You get to different places from totally different angles. For example, and what you're objecting to is the philosophy, the ideology that's behind it. So let's look what they are. Like, I'll give you an example. If you have somebody on a picture of a guy on a highway pushing somebody in front of a truck, so you can tell from that picture, is he a murderer or is he the hero pushing him out of the way? It's the exact same pose, exact same posture, the same back, the same hands, but one guy's a hero and one guy's a murderer. So it's very possible that any one snapshot is misleading. I said it's exactly that with the laws of tznius and modesty. I gave a metaphor that like when you go to a zoo, so they have dangerous animals in a zoo. You have gorillas and lions, whatever. So we have cages. Why do you put the gorillas in the cage? You put the gorillas in the cage to protect the people outside the cage from what's inside the cage, right? The goal is to protect the outside people. You're containing him because he's dangerous. You go to Fort Knox, you have the exact same cages made by the exact same Acme, bar and cage company. And all the gold is in there. What's the purpose of those cages? It's to protect what's inside and not to protect what's outside, So they're radically different ideas. And in Islam, what's the philosophy in Islam? Is that a woman's beauty is dangerous. It's going to corrupt the feeble minds of the men. It's going to make them distracted or worse. And therefore, we have to cover up the women to protect the men. Islam sees the beauty of women as something dangerous to be subdued, to be tamped down, to be restrained, in order to protect the men who are going to be victims of this danger. Many people think that Judaism's approach to modesty is the same thing. It's like because that's what we normally assume modesty is. So people on autopilot assume that, but it is the furthest thing from the truth. The reason we have modesty in Judaism is the gold metaphor. What's the source text for modesty? Kol kavuda bas melech penima. The dignity, the majesty of the princess is not to be exposed. Our reason for tznius is that women shouldn't become degraded. Woman doesn't need a man's recognition. They're valuable in themselves without any acknowledgement. There's two different reasons to cover someone up. One is to protect the people who are outside from the beauty which is going to corrupt their minds, and one is to maintain their majesty, their dignity, their purity. So the world will be inspired by them, but it's about them. It's about their dignity. So that was my point. So there was a girl in the crowd. She didn't understand the whole conversation, but she said some random point that, I don't know what you're talking about. I have Islamic friends who don't wear burqas. Like, that wasn't even a discussion. That was like 45 minutes before when the person phrased the question. She was really on my team saying that she wasn't saying that we're different. She's saying they don't wear burqas either. So I said, okay, I don't know how that addresses the point, but fair. But they're probably like in Turkey or Egypt, a more secular Islamic country, because there's something called being, Muslim, and there's something called Islam, and so she didn't understand that distinction, and she was saying her thing. So there was another kid in the back who got up and tried. I was like losing the crowd. The whole crowd was angry at her, and everyone's yelling. I said, "Everyone, stop it!" So there was one girl in the back who was like raising her hands, sort of. So I called on her, like to try and get the whole room in control. Like that was my one chance to get. Everyone was angry at her. She wasn't. What she's saying didn't make sense. It wasn't on topic. They were defending me, even though they weren't religious. But they just like, "What are you doing?" That wasn't what he was saying. The girl in the back gets up and says, "I don't know what you're saying, but my father is Muslim and my mother is Jewish. And everything the rabbi is saying is true. Whatever me and my sisters want to do, we first have to ask, how is it going to affect the boys? And everything I want to wear, do, go, it's always how the boy's going to be affected." And so that was a disaster. Everyone sort of said, you see. That girl runs out of the room, and she went to this, what they call the Middle East Coexistence House on campus. And
like a safe space or something.
I don't know. I never went there. And she told them that there's a rabbi in the Hillel building telling everyone that Muslim women are gorillas and Jewish women are gold. And we had a whole riot. They were all outside the Hillel. They were throwing things.
Wow. So that's your more extreme story. Tell us about some of the maybe less dramatic, but productive and constructive conversations, even if they were like critical conversations about some of the hot button issues. That's one that you mentioned. What are some other issues? And tell us a little bit about the back and forth and how you may have inspired people.
Okay, so this is something that's consistent between the colleges and what I did then and what I'm doing now. I sort of have like a system, like a way of, like, I don't just give random classes. I have it's like a worldview. I've developed a worldview, and I did it on campus. I could take it with me wherever I go, and I'm just giving over a different worldview. I call it religion. It's religion with a REA. It's just most people look at religion as like the real world is science and physics and psychology and all these things. That's the real world. And then I figure out what I'd like to do with my life. And then some religious guy comes and goes, I know that that's what you want to do and it's fun, but that's only for this world. There's a world to come, which with all different worlds, and that world lasts forever. So you shouldn't do what you think makes sense. You should do what we're telling you, because that's forever. And yes, you'll have fun for 80 years, but don't you want to have pleasure forever? And forever is all different rules, So that may be true for many religions, but it's not Judaism. Judaism, we believe that the Torah is the guidebook to happiness. And here's how I tell it to the students. I'll tell you, this is my first class on any campus. I come to a campus. This is what I tell them. I go, guys, because they don't want to hear me. They're there for the free pizza. That's what's going on. The rabbi is bringing free food or free Chinese, and they like him. He takes care of them. He's there for them, so they owe him once in a while to come to a guest lecture, and then hopefully they get hooked there and they realize it's not what they thought it was, and they stick around. That's the model. So the first thing I say is, you guys think I'm here to tell you to stop going to clubs. That's what you think. So I want to be very honest. No bait and switch. That's exactly why I'm here. I'm here to tell you don't go to clubs, but you don't understand. You're misunderstanding why I'm telling you that. You are under the assumption, like I just told you that speech, you're under the assumption that I'm telling you don't go to clubs because it's too much pleasure, hedonism. You should be more serious, more restrained. You should be more spiritual, less physical, more about the next world than this world, more soul than body, all those nice little catchphrases. But you're being too base, too coarse. You should be more refined and holy and less party. That's what you think. And who wants to hear that? I said, but the truth is, you don't get it. Judaism is about nothing but happiness and joy. That is the only reason for creation. That's the goal of the Torah. So why am I telling you don't go to clubs if that's the entire program of Judaism is happiness? Because the secret is that nobody ever went to a club to be happy. It never happened. People go to clubs because every year they get darker and louder. It's a place to hide from your truths. When you were 8 years old, you wanted to mow lawns a whole summer so you can make enough money to buy some girl an ice cream. You wanted to carry her books home from school, and you wanted to earn her hand. You wanted to kill a dragon and get a princess. You wanted to be deserving of something noble and regal and pure. That's all you wanted. You just wanted to be great. And then things happen in life, and you don't believe that which princess is going to want me, or if you're a girl, who's going to want to slay a dragon for me? Who's going to value me? Who's going to honor me so much? Who's going to see my value? And we start to give up, and we go through life and we chisel away at our dreams. And what happens then is that your dreams become painful. It's like a cliche that there are girls who burn their diary in college. What do you do when you burn a diary? And there are definitely guys who take their trophies off their fireplace mantle and put them in the attic. Why would someone put away their trophies? Why would you burn your diary?
Yeah.
Because if you're a deep person, and you hear those voices of your dreams in your ears, it hurts. When you think that ship sailed, the first people up in any house in the morning are the little kids. They're bouncing off the walls. The parents have to lock their doors and say, just because you're up doesn't mean we have to go play in the living room, let mommy and daddy sleep another half an hour. But that doesn't go on forever.
That's right. That's right. If my kids are listening, that's right. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't want to scare you, but you got to be careful because it ends very, very quickly, unfortunately. By the time the kids are 13, 14, you wake up in the morning and the house is deadly silent. Oh my God, who stole the kids? And then you go in and there's your son in bed. It's like, Moshe, what? School, Shacharis, what's going on? I heard you, Daddy. I'm up. I heard you. And then 10 minutes later, no, the school, what are you doing? And I'm up. I heard you. The third time, it's like, Daddy, you're getting weird already. Okay, it's good. I'm in control.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens from 4 years old to 14? What happens? What happens is that at 4 years old, we're giggly and giddy and innocent and pure, and then we go through life, and all that there's different ways we lose that fire, but we lose that fire. And then we start to put the covers over our head. We push snooze buttons and weird noise canceling headphones. What are noise canceling headphones canceling?
Yeah.
Universe, reality. You put yourself in this little bubble and you live there. So this is the story of the world. And people, I'll tell you the coolest way I say it. I don't want to get hung up on one point, but it's really cool to share this with people.
I'm loving this. So continue.
Okay. Amazing. So we're on the same wavelength. I like it. Okay. So not everybody likes this stuff, but I guess the people who lost their dreams don't want to hear it. But you're a dreamer, so you're still on fire, so you like hearing it. Okay.
I'm the 6-year-old who's up at 5. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you know how high school kids and college kids, there are words that they use, like every third word is the same word. It makes parents crazy. So when I started doing outreach, I'm going to give away how old I am now. When I started going out, the word was, maybe you can guess, maybe some of your audience, I don't know if anybody my age, it was like the California Valley Girl times. Like it was like totally awesome. That's awesome. That is so awesome. Totally awesome. Like totally awesome. It was like this, but it was always awesome. Awesome is the word awesome with a Sephardi pronunciation, a patach instead of a comma. So,
yeah.
So you know what the word is today? The number one word in any college or high school? Whatever. This is very heavy. I don't think there are two words in any language as far apart as the words awesome and whatever. Awesome is a word full of anticipation and joy and optimism and excitement. It is an exuberant word. It's a word full of positivity and hope. It's going to be great. There is no sadder, more broken word than whatever. It's a long word, whatever, but it's much longer than it looks. So whatever means is once upon a time, I thought things were awesome. I was going to live. I lived with fire. I woke up in the morning early. I took on the day. I giggled. I bounced. I was that. And then things happened that I don't believe. All those things I wanted are going to come true. And I don't deserve it, or it's not happening. I'm not good enough. And it now causes me so much pain to think about all my dreams. And I can't cope with that pain. So I need to come up with some way to convince myself that all those dreams are foolish, childish, la-la land. So I came up with this word, whatever. And it helps me live and cope with what I believed was once awesome. Mm-hmm. And that is what happened in our world. Our world went from a mantra of awesome to a mantra of whatever. Or another way to see it is little kids are wide-eyed. like big eyes, like high school kids know how to roll their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The gap between wide-eyed and eye rolling is the saddest journey in the world. And this is what we're dealing with. You
Well,
know, when
what contributed to that?
I don't know. It's a nice thing to think about. I'm always tempted to think more about it and more about it. And you're asking, so I'll tell you what I have. But I at one point I said, forget where it came from. How are we dealing with it? Everybody's always looking for sources, and you sort of lose it. Right now we have it's kids suffering. So like, how do we get them out of it? But you're right.
Well, if we know how we got in, we
Yeah,
might know
there's
how to
so
get
many
out.
reasons. There's so many reasons. How I say it in the Garden of Eden. This is just, this is humanity's story. It's always been like this. I'll give you a taste of my religion, Torah.
Yeah.
Religion says this is the garden. This is the Garden of Eden. What do you mean? Where are you? You're in Ohio. Maybe Ohio is a garden. I don't know. But I spend my weeks in Florida, in Miami. It's definitely a garden. The whole America's a garden. America's Earth isn't the garden. This is the garden, and we're Adam and Eve. And all God wanted is for us to be dancing barefoot in His garden, swim in His seas, climb His mountains, smell His flowers, sing His songs, walk with a lot of kids with matching clothing, sit down to Shabbos Sudas, bounce around, play games. He wanted us to have endless joy forever. But there's another place in the garden called bushes. And Adam and Chava, instead, they get ashamed and they hide in the bushes. And this is the story of all of humanity. Every subsequent Adam and Eve has made the same journey. We're born with a garden in front of us, with dreams and goals to dance in this garden. We all have subtly different dreams of how the dance looks, but everyone wants to dance in the garden. And inevitably we do things, or things happen that we feel naked and ashamed, and we go hide in the bushes. And to me, all of Judaism and all of the Torah is nothing more than the book, the guide to how to get Adam and Eve out of the bushes back into their garden. And that's what Torah is. And that's my religion talk.
Mm-hmm.
When I started going to campus, it wasn't like that. When I was a rabbi, that's what I made my career. I like to be known as like a philosopher, and that was my thing. I read every book on Jewish philosophy. I learned how to debate and answer questions, and I would spend my time in college debating professors and fighting with smart students and all that kind of stuff. And at one point, I started to go to more like a few years before COVID. I would come to school and I would say my same old talks, and I would get this like blank look from the students, like what are you talking about? And I go, what do you mean? It's like true, it's deep, it's powerful. Maybe, but you don't get it, Rabbi. I pay $30,000 a semester tuition and I get drunk every night. You think my problem is I don't know stuff? My problem is I can't do the stuff that I already know. Why are you telling me new stuff? Put your stuff in the back of the line. When I ever get around to the stuff I already know, I'll do yours also maybe. But my issue isn't what's true. My issue is how come I can't live by my own truths?
So people aren't like the olden day Aisha Torah 1970s and 80s. They're searching. They have to find themselves. Those days are over, you're saying?
No, I listen, I was the national lecturer of Aisha Torah, and I was very instrumental in moving them away from the Discovery Seminar. The Discovery Seminar was a seminar that most of the people who are religious today and who are Bali Tshuva became Bali Tshuva through that. It was a way of proving the Torah, the divinity of Torah. But that's not what people need today. It doesn't work. It's because they can hear it and they can buy into it, and they're still on TikTok all day or online. Or what happens is you ask what caused it. I'm keep on describing what it is, but what caused it? Listen, it happens as children sometimes. Even if I know, what? Here, I'll tell you the way I just said it. It's very powerful, this idea. It's a little old, but I just spoke by the Project Inspire convention. The topic they gave me, very powerful topic. I hope I did it justice. And if you like it, this stuff, you can hear it on Torah anytime. I just did it Saturday night. The topic was innocence versus sophistication. Should we be building higher walls or wider bridges? That was like, what should we be doing? Should we be closing off the outside world, secularism, all these ideas, or should we be making higher walls or bigger bridges? Find ways to cross over or find ways to keep it out. That was innocence. I called it innocence versus sophistication. It wasn't my first choice. I gave him a better. I like good names. I gave him a great title of a name. They didn't choose it, unfortunately. I tell you my title. I couldn't use it in the class. At least I could tell it to you. If you don't like it, you better not tell me. I thought it was the best title. My title was, "If you want to fly with spirit, you have to leave your baggage behind."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, isn't that so? Why didn't they choose it?
Well, it's a little long. It's a little long.
Okay, you're like a marketing guy. I don't know. I love that title.
It's a good tagline. I just don't know if it's a title. But yeah, anyways, let me hear the schmooze.
Yeah, so the schmooze was like this. I gave really this introduction about the inner kids and being alive, and that by the time we're adults, we're all curled up in a fetal position most of the time. Or even people who are working, we're like going through motions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the American dream? The American dream is to make so much money I can retire young and sit in a hammock. You know,
drinking lemonade.
Yeah. But if you think about it, I spell it out. Like, what's a hammock? Hammock's a very, very sad dream, because here's the dream of a hammock. A hammock is, it's good. Like, close my eyes. I get into my hammock groove. You know, no bills, no bosses, no smog, no pressure, no deadlines, no commuting, no homework, no diapers, no parents, no kids, no tests, no finals, no clients, no homework, no highways, no police, no IRS. You know, it's an amazing dream. No, you like it? Like, just what's the common denominator of everything in that dream? No bosses, no clients, no kids, no parents, no pressure, no school, no noise, no smog, no traffic, no hassles, no grief, no pressure. No. Every single thing in that list is the absence of a negative. Mm-hmm. If you had to give a numerical value for that dream, what would the number of that dream be? It's a 0. It's just getting out of the red. When you get out of the red, you don't have anything. That's not a dream of pleasure. Mm. Everything I listed is a pain. So our dream is to make the pain stop. Everyone has sort of written off pleasure. Pleasure is love and creativity and accomplishment and power and building and nurturing and knowing, and all pleasure are achievements, positive experiences. Mm-hmm. But I feel like people just live with so much pain that the idea of the pain stopping is so appealing that becomes our goal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did that happen? Basically, we have, like, again, I'm not saying everybody, but if you have, you know, if you're out there, definitely if you're on campus, you see it. You know,
I do find it interesting. You're saying that while we're in an opioid crisis, maybe there's something between the two.
Yeah. You know, opioids are a very severe way of dealing with it, but
right.
The more common way to deal with it is just why do we push snooze buttons 4 or 5 times? You know why in the morning? Nobody believes that 5 minutes of nervous sleep is worth anything. I figured out the secret of why I know I myself, I used to daven, and shouldn't put this on tape, make myself look bad, but who cares? You gotta be real. So I used to daven in Lakewood. We have these big, huge, we call minion factories.
Sure.
You know,
Satmar, where did he go?
Satmar, yeah. So I used to go there every day to the minion factory, and I noticed that I would always go to the minion that's like up to Baruch Sha'amar. You know, there's a minion starting in 4 minutes that's up to brachas. You know, I could start from the beginning. Why do I have to go to the minion that's already 5 minutes in?
Yeah.
You know why? I wasn't in that major rush, because if I go to a minion where I'm caught up and I'm with them, I have to really be present and think and face my truths. Mm-hmm. If I'm 5 minutes late, all I have to do is read Hebrew really fast for an hour.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is what I think.
I'm going to try not to admit that I identify with that, but yeah, I can.
Yeah, that's listen. It's universal. These are the escapes. We all come to the same stuff. You know, we have the same dreams, and you know, more or less, and the same experiences that chisel away at our dreams. So we then listen. If you're a shallow guy, you don't need to do anything. You just dreams. You know, give me an Xbox, I'm good. You know, most people can play Xbox and they forget all their voices or all their dreams. Mm-hmm. But if you're deeper than that, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And or you know, eventually your mother takes away the Xbox, you know, or the bar closes, or you run out of money in the slot machine, or you whatever. Eventually, even if you do find a hiding place, it doesn't work forever. So eventually, you face the pain. So we've developed different coping mechanisms. This being late thing, that's what I found. The snooze button is about, if I can't wake up on time, I'm present the entire day. I experience every moment of my day. If I push the snooze button, then my whole day can be being a little bit late playing catch up. And catch up, I could survive. And I see the students doing this. The last session of the day, everyone's on their cell phones, preparing what they're going to do as soon as class ends. Because God forbid there should be a moment of silence. Because in silence is your truths. And everybody wants to run, and you can't face your truth if you're not who you wanted to be. So you gotta before school ends, you gotta know where you're going, and you have to go there and hang out there until it's so late and you're so drunk or so tired that go home and you fall right back to sleep. And then the next day it's rinse and repeat. You get up and you push the snooze button and you go to sleep tired again. If we can do this for 80 years, I never have to face my truths, and I could be numb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the longest hour of my day is the hour I put away my phone when I'm putting my kids to sleep.
Yeah,
I get that.
I'm telling you, and it's the best movie ever did. It'll change your kids' lives.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I could go
from 1 hour. Now, I know if there was 1 hour to put to be real, that's the hour. Because it might be too late for us, but our kids can still live. Your kids are still whole. And if they have a father who's totally present and not looking at their phone or thinking about things or worried, that's what changes their lives.
Mm-hmm.
They get an expectation of what reality could be. They see a conversation without that haze and that mask. It's very rare. Most people never see that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a really powerful way. I say this sometimes is that, how come by breakfast we read the cornflakes box for like the 47th time?
Yeah.
Like, I know every nutrient in every major brand of cereal by heart, with and without a half a cup of skim milk. and if you buy those like religious brands, the Frum brands, like all the Hatzalah warnings, I can do the Heimlich maneuver in my sleep. Why? Nobody reads things 2-3 times, maybe 2, but why would we read the same thing 47 times? You sit there why? Because what's behind the cornflakes box is our wives.
Mm-hmm.
If you remove the box, you know what a man sees when he looks in his wife's eyes? He sees everything he promised when he walked down the chuppah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not that guy, you can't look in her in the eyes. It hurts too much.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are that guy, imagine that you're honest and you're faithful and you don't look at things you shouldn't look at, and you're working hard, and you go to shul every morning, and you're doing daf yomi, and you have a chavrusa, and you come home and you're careful how you talk, and you turn your phone off when you speak to your kids. You do all those things. You know what happens then? That guy can't wait to look his wife in the eyes, because there's no greater joy in the world than looking in your wife's eyes and seeing that look that says you're everything you promised. This is in the wife's eyes is where you have truth. And that's a truth. And they're dreamers. They don't lose their dreams. Women are deeper and holier than us. And a man can play it. Women don't play Xbox like men do nearly as much, because it doesn't work for them. They're so deep. Nothing's shutting down their dreams. Their truths. So this is how I see it. So the question is, where does that come from? Why, when we're kids, are we so in the zone and bouncing off the walls wide-eyed? And why, when we're older, do we start rolling our eyes and cackle? Little kids giggle, and adults, we cackle. We sarcastic laughter.
Mm-hmm.
This Billy Joel had a song I used to always quote, nice Jewish boy. Both of his parents were Jewish, but none of his wives. But Billy Joel has a song, I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners are much more fun. Only the good die young. You ever heard that?
Maybe, but
very powerful song. But the problem with the song is it was number 1 for a long time. I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints, because people picture the sinners partying and the saints all crying. But that song's about Catholic girls.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the song's about.
Mm-hmm.
With very powerful lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tell people is that the song's a lie. People think it's an opposite, holy or happy. Holy. No. We want to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Happy and holy.
Happy and holy. They're numb. The saints aren't crying. And maybe in Christianity, the saints they don't drink, they don't get married, they're celibate, they're silent, they have faith. We don't believe in any of that stuff. They're all the same. You know, what fasting is to your stomach is what silence is to your mouth. It's what celibacy is to your body. It's what faith is to your mind. It's just the ignoring of yourself. And yeah, and that's suffering. But we believe in feasting and singing and dancing and marriage and thinking and depth and questioning. For us, we believe in joy.
Mm-hmm.
I say we laugh and they laugh. The argument is not saints laughing, saints crying and sinners laughing. Both of us laugh. The saints laugh that innocent giggle of purity, and the sinners laugh. I call it the saddest sound in the world. It's that cackle of somebody sitting on the stoop, watching it after he dropped out, watching his friends go to school with all their books, or going to work with their at the showcase. It's the cackle of the people who are the chillers, making fun of all the productive people, the people working hard, being married. We both laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It's a giggle versus a cackle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's wide-eyed or eye rolls, awesome or whatever. It's all the same talk.
Uh-huh.
But you asked the most important question. Maybe I'm a little bit of a cop out that I tried to avoid it, but I'll tell you what I think the cause. I think there are two causes. My daughter got married during COVID, and I originally said this by her Sheva Brachas. There was hardly anybody there, but there were two things going on in the early COVID days: COVID and the early George Floyd riots.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that the news was only full of two things. Everything was either Derek Chauvin, that was the cop with the knee on the neck, or COVID. And I believe that they're almost the same thing, but at the same time, they're sort of opposites. They both have the same mantra. COVID and Derek Floyd and George Floyd both had the same mantra: I can't breathe. I can't breathe. COVID shuts off your breathing and Derek Chauvin cuts off your breathing. But there are two opposite ways you lose your breath. The metaphor in Judaism for life is breath. God creates Adam with breathing his life into him. Vayipach ba'ap of nishmas chayim, and we're animated because we have breath. And that's the little kid bouncing off the walls, and those are our dreams. It's all God's breath. And we all lose it, and we end up in the bushes. There's two ways you lose it. You lose it through the COVID model, or the COVID model is where it comes from inside. The Derek Chauvin model is where it comes from outside. The way it comes from inside is sort of comes from inside is you look at things you shouldn't look at and you feel ashamed. Shame is where it comes from inside. I don't mean shame from other people. Shame on the people is not real shame. I call that secondary shame. What happens is I did things that I'm ashamed of. I can't look in the mirror. Then I find all new people who don't know what I did and they think I'm the man and they like me and they follow me. And then so I look at myself through their eyes. They're a mask. They allow me to feel great because they think I'm great. So they're a mask. Then when they see through me and I'm embarrassed in front of them, it's not them embarrassed of, it's that my mask, their awe of me was peeled away, and now I'm forced to deal with my initial shame. So really, shame is only the inability to see yourself. Public humiliation is just robbing you of a mask that would allow you to compensate. Because if you know you're really great and people don't like you, you're not embarrassed. They can't embarrass you. They can only embarrass you if you already don't believe in yourself and you thought you were getting away with it. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so the way I explain how shame works, shame is the feeling you feel when you cop out, when you don't live up to who you wanted to be, your own standards, whatever your standards are. Mm-hmm. So if you feel shame, it means that you didn't do something you believed in.
So let me ask you, is shame different than regret?
Interesting. You know what I would say? I would say that what shame does is shame causes you to lose your bounce and to be reluctant, to live with a hesitancy and a reluctance. You don't feel like you're going to be successful. I'm not sure. And you become hesitant, tentative, reluctant. And then you miss out on many, many experiences and opportunities because you didn't try. You didn't apply to that school. You didn't ask that girl for a date. You didn't take on that project because I'm never going to get it. Who am I? I'm a nobody, because you feel
Mhm.
ashamed.
Mhm.
And then regret is the feeling you feel for all the opportunities that you missed because of your shame.
Right, but I would imagine that regret could breed resiliency if you want to bounce back and learn from what you didn't do. Shame is just
Yeah, yes, yeah,
into it.
it could be. It could be. I would probably rather somebody would temper the word regret. Regret could lead you somewhere good, but there's probably a way to frame it that's only positive.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll give you example. In a lot of the Svarim, Breslov, Chabad, like Balatanya says a difference between atzvos and mariros. The Reb Nachman calls it atzvos and leiv nishbar. Everyone's against sadness. Atzvos is a terrible trait. It makes you feel pity and self-pity and sorry for yourself.
What's
It's
the
just
one? What's the one word you would use to translate atzvos?
sadness.
Sadness.
Sadness. I don't think you have to get more complicated, because it's a very broad word. Just that what sadness does is it's putting a spotlight, a magnifying glass on on your negative situation. And that's now there is maybe this is why, I guess this is why you're asking me that. You're probably a step ahead of me. So there's another word called mariros.
Mm-hmm.
Mariros is a bitterness. I'm not sure that's the best translation either, but that's holy.
Well, marur.
Right. Mara. It's that's a whole, that's, you're not allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel mar. Mar is the feeling you feel when you want to accomplish. You want to be more. You want to give. You want up to, and you're frustrated and you're living without. I'll give you an example. You know the famous story in the Chumash where they came to Mara and the waters were bitter. There was no water to drink, so the people complained. So Moshe took a tree and he threw it into the water. And when he threw the tree in the water became sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my how religion would explain that. My religion.
Yeah.
Religion would say that what is bitterness? Bitterness is the feeling you feel when you wanted to give and you couldn't give. You never had the opportunity. You spent your whole life without teaching, without giving, and you were meant for that. And it's a frustration of I wanted to be big and I never got to. So with that idea, if water is bitter, what would water be bitter about? What is water's dream? What does water want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What does water want to do? It wants to irrigate. It wants to, water plants. It wants to be the It wants to be the stimulant for growth. That's the dream. If water would have dreams, its dreams would be to fall from the sky and watch its field and its trees and its flowers grow. That's the dream of water. The Gemara says that. It says, Arba chukais. There are four, chukka is a hard word, but let's say desires in the world.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is the chukka of rain for the earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Desire to give. It's the same chukka of a woman for a man.
Fulfillment.
She wants him. It's the same as the rain. She wants to give to him. She wants to shape him and mold him and inspire him. Mm-hmm. So it's the same. That's a good point for just a feminist talk. People think that when the Torah says that El Isheich Chukasech, it says to Eve that your chukka, your desire will be for your husband. It sounds very subservient. Not if you look at all the other chukkas, you'll realize that chukka is not that kind of need. The chukka of rain for the earth is the desire to give. The chukka of woman for a man is not that she needs him, it's that she wants to shape him, inspire him. It's a very positive chukka. Anyways, but that's a tangent.
Yeah.
But so if water is, its desire is to give, to give things to grow. So you have bitter waters. What do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Throw it a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it a tree. Because that's what it wants to give to. It's a metaphor for saying that whenever something's bitter, you see a girl, an older single girl, throw her a chassan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see a frustrated rabbi with nobody to teach, throw him a group for a shir. That the cure for bitterness is to give people what to give to. The prototype is to give a tree to water, and then the water stops being bitter.
So opportunities,
yeah. So right. So how did we get here? So we were explaining what mariros is. Mariros, bitterness is the desire to give. It's not sadness. I'm not wallowing in self-pity. It's a hunger. It's an acknowledgement of lack that's stimulating you to go further,
Mm-hmm.
which is really what that's like a long speech for what you meant when you said regret. Like
Right.
obviously in your mind, regret is sort of mariros. And that's very fair. That's a nice way to say it. Mariros is regret.
So let's take it to, times where we're supposed to feel that we're actually, it's the mitzvah, so to speak, figuratively, of the day, Tisha B'Av. So explain how Tisha B'Av has that element, because there have been times, and I hope this happens every year, on Tisha B'Av where I feel, I was going to say sad, but maybe after this talk I should say bitter. But then, fast forward the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation video and maybe some Yoel Gold videos and some maybe your talks on, I don't know, or anything else. You feel a little inspired. You want to do the things that could rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. So is bitter supposed to propel you forward?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it says. Anyone who mourns destruction will merit to see the rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Wallowing in self-pity is debilitating. It just makes you lose more and more respect for yourself. Wallowing in bitterness is basically, bitterness is the feeling you have when you don't have something but you still believe you can have it. The ship hasn't sailed. That's what bitterness is. Once the ship sailed, you become cynical. You can't let yourself you can't let yourself pine after something if it'll never happen. It's like, I'll tell you, a really deep story happened to me. I was in a mall and there was a kid who was lost, and I could tell how terrified he was.
Yeah.
And I wanted to intervene, but you can't just walk over to a kid lost in the mall these days. I'll be the one missing,
Yeah.
So I was trying to look for a cop or who might be his mother. It felt like it was taking forever, but I kept my eyes on this kid. I didn't want to lose him, and I was so blown away. He's a little boy, but already he knew that boys aren't allowed to cry. I never saw such terror in someone's eyes, but he had this firm jaw. He wasn't going to cry. It was like, oh my God, a little kid's already like this. Like he wouldn't cry. And it was going on forever. And then I finally saw where he saw it. I was about to jump in. Like I was saying, okay, 1 more second or 10 more seconds. If there's no cop, I'm going to go in. But then I saw the second he saw his mother, his eyes brighten up. He runs across the mall, jumps from 10 feet away into her arms. You know what happens as soon as he's safe in her arms? He cries like a little boy. That's a very deep thing. When you see something upside down like that, you got to figure it out. Like those are gifts, those kind of situations. Like the entire time he was sad and in danger, he wasn't crying. And now he's safe and it passed. He made it to the finish line. Now he breaks. Like now everything should recede. It's not getting worse. This isn't what's going to bubble over out and overcome his barriers. What's the answer? So, and it wasn't tears of joy. It was real crying. Tears of joy would have been a good answer, but I was there. That was not what it was. It was just everything. All the pent up tears broke through. He couldn't hold them in anymore. So I think the explanation is that we think that crying is the saddest thing in the world. Really, it's not the saddest thing. Crying is a very good thing. Crying means you believe that there's someone who will hear you. If you don't believe there's anyone who will answer you, you don't believe there's a cure, then you can't cry. You can't let yourself face it because it's too painful. You have to move on and let go. As long as this boy was lost in the mall, a boy, you cannot live without a mother. It's inconceivable. He couldn't admit to it. He had to repress that thought because there's no way to cope with the idea that I don't have a mother. And he couldn't even cry. Crying is saying, I need this. You can't say I need something that'll never come. It's only once he was safe in his mother's arms that he felt safe, that he was able to face how scared and dangerous it was. Now I can cry because now I'm safe. Crying requires a belief that it's achievable, that it's possible. It's within the realm of what might be. It's a very heavy thing, but so how does that fit in? What you were saying with the, so then, I think I don't remember exactly what the point was, but I felt like that was the way to illustrate it. So don't get old.
No, Tisha B'Av and Mariros.
Yeah, but I'm saying so. In order to have Mariros, in order to have Mariros as opposed to sadness, Mariros, you have to believe that it's possible. You can't pine for something that ship has sailed. If the ship has sailed, then you have to burn your diary. You can't face it. You can't have any reminders. Oh, but let me go back. I'll do it really fast. But I wanted to show you the two sides, the two reasons that we lose our breath. That was the original question. Why do people become chillers? Why do we dream of the hammock instead of garden? Why do we have to go to the minion that's late? Why do we have to say whatever and roll our eyes and cackle? Because we don't believe it'll come true. Why? Our dreams won't come true. One is because I lost my own breath. I looked at things I shouldn't look at and I felt shame. That's how shame is a cop-out. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to kill a dragon and get the princess. I wanted to mow lawns and buy her an ice cream. And now I just clicked on some buttons and I saw everything I ever wanted to see. So you feel like a total fraud. You feel like a cheater. And that's what shame is. Shame is when you take shortcuts and you cheat and you don't, when this guy gives you this book and tells you it's the best book in the world and you skip to the last page where it says they live happily ever after, it's the kids when you ever do a trip to Masada with like students or congregants, and there's always one guy, everyone's climbing in the early morning for sunrise. There's always one guy who takes the cable car. You can tell that guy at the top, he's the guy who doesn't belong. Shame is where you take a shortcut. Pornography is the cable car to a meaningful love, to an achievement of a true intimacy. You skip to the finish line. And I mention it because the Torah is so busy with those kind of sins. Be careful what you look at. Everyone thinks it's what do you mean? It's a victimless crime. Like what's wrong? And the answer is the most important victim. It's you. For most people, their first shame is looking at something they shouldn't look at. Your first shame is not cheating on your taxes. Your first shame is not taking the cable car at Masada. The first shame, the first crack in my feeling of invincibility, the first crack in my feeling of worthiness is when I look at something I shouldn't look at. And I feel shame, and then I go hide, and now I have regret, and now my shame grows because I miss more and more opportunities, and I have increasingly growing shame. So that's what I call the COVID shame, the internal shame, the thing that you let inside of you that ate you up from inside, your guilt and your shame. But then there's another shame. You cannot look at anything, and you could be hardworking. You can be everything. And somebody from outside can come and put a foot under your neck and crush you. You can be beaten and bullied. You can be persecuted. You can be shamed. I tell people who have kids, like, the punchline in that class of the bridges versus the walls, so the dilemma there was everybody was saying, well, you want your kids to know about the world. You don't want to be ignorant. You want to see everything. But on the other hand, you want to protect them. So how do you have both? My point was, it's not like that, is that the reason why we don't want our kids on the internet, in Lakewood, the schools, it's like a contract between all the parents that no parent in this school is going to, why? Because, so they say, what do you mean inevitably your kids are going to see everything? How you're living in La La Land, you think you can protect them? That's not what it is. It's that the kid has no accomplishments yet. He has no pride. If he feels ashamed now, it's going to run through his personality unchecked. If I can delay his shame even a few years till he makes a CM on a small track date on Makis, so now the kid feels like a hero. And now when he feels his shame, he has an opposing voice. He can survive. If I can last a little longer to when he finishes Bava Basra, the biggest thing, he feels like Hercules. Of course, eventually he's going to see things he shouldn't see, but at least now he has a response. Most children in America now are exposed to shameful feelings way before they've ever done anything of significance. And the shame runs through their entire personalities and destroys them from inside. And they become chillers. They can become very charming and very articulate, but it's all for the means of being cool and detached. And more than that, the internet has two main skill sets. The two main skill sets of the internet are a skill to shame everything valuable. Everything is old-fashioned. Marriage is truth, morality, religion, clubs, even the Boy Scouts. Like what's wrong with the Boy Scouts? They don't like the kids have badges and uniforms. They feel all self-important. They don't like flags, and this isn't liberalism. Liberals are loving people. Avraham Avinu, Abraham was a liberal. Picking up people, trying to take care of everybody, feeling the pain, and empathy. But then there's a lot of people, not the majority, but you know, but a lot of the shrillest voices that they don't care about the broken people. They just want to wipe the smile off the happy people.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make, you can't walk around feeling like you know the truth. There's no truth. You can't feel spiritual. There's no religion. You can't feel like family oriented. Marriage isn't the thing. Money is evil. What's the common denominator of all those things? Flags, clubs, anything. There are people who want to rob people of every single opportunity to feel good. And that's what I feel when I read things. It's all shaming all the values that make people feel joy.
Mm-hmm.
And then and the flip side of that, the other side is then they glorify all the emptiness. The entire existence of Facebook, of Instagram, of TikTok is literally nothing more than showing the rest of the world how my empty life is really better than yours. It's getting you to be jealous of my emptiness. Yeah. Look at what I'm eating. Look who I'm dating. Look what I'm wearing. Be jealous of me.
Yeah, and I think TikTok's in the lead now. Seems like.
Yeah, because it's the quickest delivery system to that.
Yeah.
So what happens to a kid who's online? He learns to be ashamed of what he believes in and jealous of emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
What chance do they stand? I call that Derek Chauvin. It's where you lose your breath, not because I did anything wrong, because somebody from outside crushed it out of me.
Uh-huh.
And there are two. So these are the two ways. You asked how we get to whatever from awesome, how we get to the eye roll from the wide-eyed, the cackle from the giggle, either by copping out, usually by looking at things we shouldn't look at, or by having other people, putting myself in a situation where other people can crush it out of me and shame me and make me insecure about what I myself really love and believe in. Whichever way, but my point is still true. Whichever way it is, it doesn't matter. The question is, how do you recover it?
How do you throw the tree into the water?
How do you throw the tree on ice? How do you throw a tree in the water? So listen, the shortcut is if the reason you're there is because of cop-outs, then just stop copping out.
Yeah.
People who stop looking at things they shouldn't look at, you feel holy, you feel pure, you feel bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
You can do business deals that you never ever thought you'd be brave enough to try. You can throw yourselves into opportunities because you feel deserving.
Discipline.
We don't know how charged up human beings really are naturally. The natural state of a human is so expansive, so brave, so courageous, because we all live with different degrees of shame. So we don't even know what the natural state is. Mm-hmm. We're so reluctant and hesitant. Everybody wants to be cool. Mm-hmm. What's coolness?
Yeah.
The secret of coolness is I don't care about anything. This way you can't hurt me. This way you can't hurt me. You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to your point about kids on the internet getting shamed, and we actually had a lecture here in Columbus by Yankee Horowitz about this specific issue, and he made an interesting point. Like his analogy was, it's like a car. There's an age where you don't get in the driver's seat. You just don't, because you're not there yet. And then there's an age where you could get in the driver's seat, but next to you is an adult. And then there's an age where you earn it on your own. So I think there's similarities here, because in order to be challenged in those areas, you need a few wins in your win column.
Yeah. And when you have wins, and when you're proud of yourself, so that's my point. My point is that like people think the dilemma is, should I be sophisticated or innocent? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, I'll give you the Torah metaphor I used.
Yeah.
Parshas, I'll do it very fast. Parshas Akev. It's called the Parsha of the heel. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Says, if you will listen to the Torah laws with your heel. Mm-hmm. And the end of the Parsha says, then the last pasuk after the whole Parsha says, then every place that you walk with the palms of your feet, the kaf regel, will be yours. So I always thought it was like a nice little poetic thing where you change the word from heel to palms of feet. It's just the same idea. What was the idea? A heel is the part of you that's callous. It's the part of the body that's meant for walking, because the ground is hard and your feet are soft and there's sharp things. But if you want to be able to walk in the world, you need heels. You need a heel. You need something hard. You need walls to protect you, And the problem is that heels don't feel anything. So if you're going to make a wall, then you lose sensitivity. If you want to be nuanced and sophisticated, then you have to be sensitive. But if you want to be safe, then you need to be strong. You need to heal, but it feels nothing. That's the problem. But what the Torah ends off is, if you will have heels, then every place that your heels, the palm of your feet treads will be yours. And I realized that palm of the feet is not another word for heel. In fact, it's the opposite. The heel is the most callous part of a person. The palm of the foot is the most sensitive part of a person. When you want to tickle your kids, what do you tickle them? The palm of the foot. They go crazy. There's nothing more sensitive than the palm of the foot. But what, isn't that cool? That sounds like so mystical. That next to each other is the softest and the hardest spot. No, it's not mystical. I mean, it could be mystical too, but it's very, very rational. Wow. The reason why the palm of the foot is so soft and sensitive is because the heel takes all of the contact. And then the palm of the foot then could be sensitive. So this is what I say. It's the question's a lie. Do I have to choose between sophistication or innocence, high walls, or then I can't experience the world? No. The most sensitive, present, nuanced thing in the world is the heel, is the palm of the foot. And it's only like that because of the walls. It's when you build high walls, then the children inside can be so sensitive and present and can see the world like with the clarity and the truth that no one else can. The clearest vantage point to seeing the universe is safely behind walls that protect you from the voices that make you squint at the world and roll your eyes. It's the pasuk, when you strengthen the bolts of your gates, then your children are blessed inside. Of course, we want our kids to be nuanced and to experience things in so many levels of and depth and sophistication. That only happens if you can maintain their purity. Human eyes see so much, except when they start squinting.
Right, it's the window to the soul. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Wow. So I see why you've been to so many college campuses, so much to talk about, and I think we've just begun. This is the iceberg. I understand that you have a whole lecture on, is heaven a red state or blue state? Maybe that's for a take two.
We have to do that once.
Right. But I really appreciate you coming on. We discussed so much. This is probably the deepest episode we've ever done on Kolot. It really is. That's what I'm saying now. And I'm not saying that because makes you feel good and escape some pain and not confront reality. I'm saying that because I really think we got some real depth.
It's all the interviewer. You gotta bring it out. That little regret versus sadness. Like you pulled out good stuff. You're not just on autopilot here.
I'm dealing with someone who has stuff to pull from. So thank you so much for joining Kolot, and much more continued hatzlacha and success, inspiring Jews on every campus, in every part, in every corner of the globe. Amen. And hopefully we get to connect again soon.
Amen. And enjoy hope you have your kahila there grows, and I guess your kahila is much bigger than your kahila. Your kahila is the entire universe now. But
that's right.
Hatzlacha in Columbus too. All right.
Amen.
To listen to all Kolot episodes and see upcoming guests, visit kolotpodcast.com. We are also on all podcast players. Type in Kolot on iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, and Amazon. Share with your friends, and please make sure to give us a 5-star review. Kolot is a project of the Columbus Community Kollel, a full-time Jewish learning center in Bexley, staffed with high-caliber Torah scholars. Ever since 1995, boys, girls, men, and women from all backgrounds and affiliations have found many opportunities to connect with Torah and mitzvos at the Kollel. Whether it's a study partner, an engaging lesson, or a program, the Kollel is your one-stop shop for all your Jewish learning. If you want to know how you can benefit from the Kollel, visit thekollel.org. That is TheKollel.org, and forever be inspired.